In today's video, I'm sharing with you 4 DIY thrift flip projects that I made for my home decor. For the first one, I started out with this vintage cutting board and some decals from the Dollar Tree, as well as some white chalk paint. Now I'm going to be making over the back side of the cutting board. I think it's a breadboard actually, because I want to save the strawberries for when I decorate with strawberries in the summertime. The first thing I did was to give it 2 good coats of white chalk paint. And then I really wanted the white chalk paint to be nice and smooth because I was going to be using those rub-on decals. So I took my 800 grit sandpaper and just gave it a nice little light sanding. I was not trying to distress it. This won't distress it. It just makes it nice and smooth because I wanted to smooth out the ridges from my paintbrush. Because when you're using the rub-on transfers, you really want to be doing it on a nice smooth surface. And then I took my damp cloth and I just wiped away the dust. And then I took my decals and I just cut out the ones that I wanted to use because there's lots of different options and you don't want to use it as a whole sheet because these stick very easily and very well. So that's why it's important to cut out the pieces that you want so that you don't have other decals that you don't want to use sticking to your project. So I started with that wreath. That is what drew me to these decals. I just think it's so pretty. I kind of put that in the middle and then I just figured out a design using other pieces of decal. And I just wanted to mention that this video is part of the Flippin Friday collaboration hosted by Jamie from Border Bananas and Border Bananas DIY on the 3rd Friday of every month. It's my favorite collaboration. I will link to the playlist and to Jamie's channel in my description box. Once I had my design figured out, I used this putty knife from the Dollar Tree to rub the transfers onto my piece. And I was just really careful when I was lifting the backing to make sure that all of the leaves had gotten rubbed on properly. So if you decide to do a project with these decals, just make sure you do it nice and slow and pull that backing up nice and slow. And if you miss one, you can always go and rub it on a little bit more and then it'll come off the backing piece. You just have to be careful when you're doing it, but they are really easy to use. You just have to be careful. I did the same process for all of the decals until I was finished, and this is what it looked like with all the decals rubbed on. I think they're so pretty. Then I took these old scrapbooking letters and I just wanted to write the word home, and I made sure to center the 2 center letters first. That just helps you to center the whole word. So I centered my O and M and then put on my H and my E. And if you wanted to do something like this and you don't have scrapbooking letters, you could totally use a Cricut, you could use a pen. I'm just trying to use up these scrapping letters because I have so many of them. I just kind of want to use what I have. Then I took my dishwasher safe Mod Podge. This is a very durable version of the Mod Podge. Someone had recommended it to me a few videos back and I really like it. And it just makes decals and vinyl transfers feel like they're really gonna stay on. So I did give it a coat, just one coat, a good coat of the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. I was making this to hang on my little decorative like towel bar. I guess it's not a towel bar. I don't even know what to call it. It's just a decorative bar that I have hanging on my kitchen island, and I wanted to make a cute hanger for my cutting board. So I decided to make a little mini tassel. So using my 3 fingers and some twine, I wrapped the twine around my fingers many times. And then you can see here, I just slipped it off and I took another piece of twine and just tied a little knot at the top. And that just makes this little, almost like it looked like a witch's broom or something. And I just trimmed up the strings. And Border Bananas has a video on how to make a tassel. I literally reference that video every single time I make a tassel. So I will link that in my description box below. And then I took another piece of twine and just tied it around the top. Now you can wrap the twine at the top of your tassel many times just to give it a different look. I was just looking for something very simple and small. That's why I didn't wrap it many times, but it does the same thing. You're just basically trying to hold all the strings in place. Then I took 2 farmhouse beads. They're the wooden beads. There's no finish on them. I get them on Amazon. And I just fed 2 of them. They're in a smaller size onto the tassel. And then I just tied it into a loop. Now figuring out how to get it to hang properly was challenging. So I'm actually going to switch to me talking through it as I was doing it because it was that challenging. Okay, now this is tricky. Go from the back to the front, and then take this side with the beads, pull the loop without the beads through, and then you get it to hang. Oopsie. So I can hang it on my board and the tassel hangs in front. Cute. And then I decided I wanted to soften the line between the paint and the wood. So I just took some sandpaper and just kind of softened that line just so it wasn't so abrupt. And here it is hanging on the decorative bar in my kitchen. It was the perfect finishing touch for this decor here. And when I decorate with my strawberries in the summer, I can flip it around. If you like DIY videos, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a video. For the next thrift flip, I started with this casserole holder. Now, I'm not going to do anything to mine, but you could paint it black or white, whatever you like. But I've done this in my home in my decor and it's been very popular. People always ask about it, so I thought I would include it here. So all I do is take my casserole holders. This is actually a smaller one than even the one I showed you, and old books. And I just put the old books in the casserole holder. I saw this once on an Instagram account that was like a hashtag, which I lost track of and I've never seen it again. But this is one that I do upstairs. I love the way this looks. I think it's a great way to flip a thrift item that's pretty easy to find. I see them pretty often and that people don't generally use the way they were initially intended. And I love to change out the books for the season, so I'll put different colors in for the different seasons. I just think it's a great flip idea. And my third thrift flip today also focuses on books. As you can tell, I love old books and I love to use them in my decor. Now, don't worry, we're not going to be doing anything to damage these books. These books are quite old. Some of them are 100, 110 years old. So I just picked 3 that I really like the colors of. And I was inspired to do this by something that my friend Jamie from Border Bananas found at an antique shop. And I'm kind of duping what she bought. This book I thought was really cool. I just got it at the Goodwill outlet bins. It's from 1912. So I'm just showing you how old it is and just the cool illustrations in the front. I just thought that was really neat. So anyway, I really wanted to have this book on top because I love the picture of the pretty lady on the front. So all I did was take this trim. I don't remember where I got this. I think it was the dollar spot at Target, but I'm not sure. Same with this rose. These are both from my stash, but not anything that you can't find at Michael's currently. And if you didn't have a special trim, you could use twine too. So all that I did was wrap my books. I didn't, attach them to each other at all. Again, I'm just keeping them in their fully preserved form. And I just tied them together with this little pretty bit of trim. And then to make sure I didn't get any glue on the cover, I just stuck that little piece of paper there and I just hot glued my rose to the bow. And I did notice that the rose was a little wobbly, so I really wanted it to have a better base. So I got my burlap ribbon that I get from the Dollar Tree. I pick this up whenever I see it. It's usually in the fall. And I cut a short strip of it and then I folded it into a square and I used my little finger protector to glue it together. I pick up those finger protectors whenever I see them at the Dollar Tree. And then I just slipped that under the rose and glued the rose to it. And again, I was careful to make sure that the hot glue wasn't going through to the surface of the book. Now, I know I'm a little ahead on the seasons here, but I am going to go ahead and make a stack for my Patriotic decor. So I had this stack of 3 books. They're reds and blues, and I pulled out this cute decorative tag that I have from my stash. You can print these online. I think someone might have sent it to me. I don't remember. And then I also have these old toothpicks. I bought these at a yard sale, and they're just really cute for any kind of patriotic crafting you might do. So I pick these up when I see them. Now, the tag looks like I just cut it out of cardstock, and so I really wanted it to have a more vintage look to it. So all I did was take my little sander. You guys have seen me use this Black & Decker sander before. It's battery operated. I love this thing. And I just sanded the edges really carefully, just to take away that freshly cut look. Then I took this Art Minds Antique wax and a little brush, and I just brushed on some of the antique wax to the edges of the tag. And then I came back with a rag and just kind of wiped it off. And that just helped to add to the antique look of the tag. And then I did just take my brush and kind of, if there were any really white cardstock spots, I just kind of brushed on a little more of the antique wax. Then I took my 2 little flags and I added a little bit of antique wax to them. They are kind of vintagey looking already because they're pretty old, but I just wanted to accentuate that aged look on them, so I just brushed a little more wax onto them. And then I took my book stack and I wrapped them together with twine. For this book stack, I wanted to wrap them in 2 directions. So I wrapped them in the vertical direction. And then you can see here, I used my twine. It was a struggle to make the twine go the other direction. And then I just cut the twine and tied a little bow. And then I slipped my tag in, and I glued my little flags to each other and then to the tag. And here is my stack of books for the patriotic holidays. I think it's so cute. Here's what the 2 book stacks look like side by side. I'm so pleased with them. I can't wait to put the green ones into my spring decor, and I'm so excited to decorate for summer. I will set this patriotic one aside for summertime. For my 4th thrift flip decor idea for today, I found this bird print framed at Goodwill. I love the print, did not like the frame or the mat, but that's okay because you can always change them. So I went ahead and took everything out of the frame, which always feels a little scary, but no need to be scared. You just pull it out layer by layer. And you can see they had taped the print to the mat. So I just carefully removed everything. And my first plan was to change the color of the mat from burgundy. So I went ahead and mixed a green color because I didn't have a color in my stash that I liked. So I just mixed up some colors until I came to a color that I liked. I won't take you through the whole boring process, but I did wind up using a little bit of blue, and then I actually wound up using white as my base and like tinted the white paint with the green because the green wound up being too dark. Long story, but I did wind up making a lovely sage color that I really liked, and I really should just buy the Waverly chalk paint that everyone uses, and then I won't have to go through this process. And here I was just checking to see how I liked the green that I made with the print. And sorry, it's kind of out of the shot, but I went around the whole edge of the mat and put 2 coats of the green color to make sure I got really good coverage of the burgundy. And then I pulled out this latex gray paint from my stash. I had bought 4 of these different shades from a decorator in the area. She had a very picky customer who couldn't decide which gray they wanted. So she had a lot of samples, and I bought them from her for, I think it was 25 cents a piece. Here I'm just showing you my thrifted hair dryer. I got this tip from some of the bigger DIY channels. Useful to have a crafting hair dryer. This way you can dry in between coats, and especially with the latex paint, it takes a little longer to dry. So I used my hair dryer to dry in between coats. And I love this color. I was quite pleased, but I did want to add a little antique wax just to give it a little bit of age. And this I applied with a slightly dampened rag. And you've seen me, if you've watched my other videos, I just wipe it on and wipe it off like Mr. Miyagi until I like the way that it looks. To distress it, I just used my little Black & Decker sander, and this makes quick work of taking off some of the paint to give it that distressed look. Then I wiped the dust from sanding off with a damp rag, and I came back in with my Mod Podge again, the dishwasher safe Mod Podge, and I just gave it a quick coat of the Mod Podge just to kind of seal everything up. And here's what the frame looked like finished. I love it. Then the fun part was to put everything back together. I did make sure I cleaned my glass really well with some glass cleaner, because the worst thing about a project like this is to get the whole thing done and then to see that you have like a hair or a piece of debris or a fingerprint on your glass. So just made sure I cleaned it up really well. So I put all the layers together and then put them back in the frame and pushed down those little metal tabs. And then I gave it an extra little cleaning with some glass cleaner to just make sure no fingerprints were on it for when I hung it on the wall. So here is the finished product. It's so much better than where I started out. I like it so much better. And here's what it looks like hanging on the wall in my bedroom. So I've recently redone my bedroom decor to be birds and butterflies and botanicals. And I am quite pleased with how this looks in this wall grouping. And that's all that I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed and gotten some inspiration from these thrift flip ideas. I love taking thrifted items and turning them into something that I can use in my own home. I would love it if you would check out the playlist. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell if you've enjoyed my videos, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.